I'm rich, I'm free. I wanna tell the world that I'm happy. I got Jesus
right here.
in my heart. I'm alive and living, all because I'm forgiven. I got Jesus
Right
here in my heart. I love the thrill that I feel when I get together with God's wonderful people. Love the thrill that I feel when I get together with God's wonderful people. What a sight just to see all the happy faces, praising God in heavenly places. What a thrill that I feel when I get together with God's wonderful people. Plenty of room in the family, room for the young and the old. Plenty of happiness. Plenty of love, plenty of room in the fold. I'm so glad I'm a part of the family of God. I've been washed in the fountain, cleansed by His blood. Join us with Jesus as we travel His song. For I'm part of the family of God.
You will notice we say brother and sister around here. Well, it's because we're a family, guys, and these folks are so dear. When one has a heart, we all shed a tear and rejoice in His victory. In this family so dear, everyone,
I'm so glad I'm a part of the family of God. I've been washed in the fountain, cleansed by His blood. Join us with Jesus as we travel His side. For I'm part of the family of
All right. Good afternoon and happy Sabbath once again, mga ka-Harmony. And we are back again live for our usual 2 o'clock na kita-kita every Saturday. And yeah, that song is by the Heritage Singers to our mga Adventists nga mga viewers, no? That song is so close to our heart. Kay, di ba? Um, that we are really part. All of us, SDA or Dili, but we are all children of God and we are part of God's family. And so, we are so grateful nga nandito na naman tayo sa ating COVID conversation. So, this afternoon is extra, extra special again. Every episode is special talaga but this time, it's the last Saturday of November and this week was celebrated, this month was celebrated as the Climate Change Awareness Month. And yesterday, sa atong mga friends din ha sa United States of America, they're celebrating their Thanksgiving. And so, we are also celebrating because every day we have to thank God for all the blessings. And basin ka mo, napod mo yung inyuhang mga ah, pasalamat din ha. So you might want to comment, what are you thankful for? Despite and in spite of our situation, karong panahuna nga medyo grim yun siya kaayo ba? Kanilagi si pandemic, unsaon tamang yun lagi ni siya, nga murag kita na human, ani sa ato ang masitwasyon, no? But nevertheless, for me, I am so grateful for one, for the gift of family and friends, for the gift that despite the pandemic, napagyapon tayo work and we can broadcast paghihapon ta, no? Thank you for our teams in Harmony from the beginning of In Harmony, sometime in 2014 sa tanang mga advocates, mga volunteers who rallied with us to share stories, empowering stories para mas makaspread ta og daghang good vibes and we can invite everyone to be proactive in the care of our physical and social environment. And of course, I thank our guests this afternoon for sharing their time and their talent and their expertise para mas mapa-aware ta sa kung unsaon jud nato di ay og atiman ang atuang kinaiyahan that God has given to us. Remember, ang atuang mandate sa Ginoo sa atua from the very beginning upon His creation was that we would be His stewards of His dominion. Ba? Take rule or dominate. Pero pag dominate, wala siya nagpasabot that you will not take care of it. Diba? So we're thankful for our guest kaya share ang ato ang episode karon, share as many as you can, as you may do, kay kani interesting jud siya kaayo siya, especially for those living in northern Mindanao. And of course, the sharing of Sir Dan Diaz later on, you will, this is, I mean, I'm so excited for this, gyud. So siguro no, without much further ado, let's continue, let's begin the begin as we always do. Our memory verse is found in First Corinthians 4:1-2. Zoom in na to para mas klaro o mas magwapa ang pagpaano ni Wang sa iyang graphics na sa wall. It says there, this is how one should regard us as servants of Christ and stewards of the mysteries of God. Moreover, it is required of stewards that they be found trustworthy. So, diba? So, yeah, if you claim to be a steward of God, murag pangatawanan na to na siya, diba? And if we claim that if we are the blessing, we are blessed by God. It's also rabitawg, let's give back, let's do our share para makatabang pud ta sa atuang Mother Nature dinhang dapita. So, yun. No. So, magpadayon ta. And of course, ang pagka-steward, apil na to ang atuang pagbantay kay intawon wala paghihapon ta na human aning pandemic. It's already 8 months, we're going 9 months, no? So lisod kaayo, so please ingon sila, it takes only like 21 days to form a habit. 8 months na ta, so sana mahabit na nako ng pagbutang sa mga non-pharmaceutical nga mga prevention, no, sa tuwa. So put those masks and face shields properly on, and then wash your hands, and of course maintain physical or social distancing. Kay ato ang pahimangno din, especially diri sa mga taga Cagayan di or, no, we are required to wear our face shield and face mask in public spaces as per our ordinance and the ordinance already took effect. Ang implementation niya kay na siya sanction last October 5, 2020 and tumataging ting na 2,000 pesos. Masakit kaayo kung dili ka gasulob properly sa imong face mask ug sa imuhang face shield. Now, sige kaingon pa ni Mayor Moreno, no? Magtinabangay ta.
Kining pandemic ang importante atong mahimo epektibo kayo magtinabangay no tinabangay tanan everybody has role to play for us to succeed in beating the virus. Kining virus is very powerful. Di na to makita. We don't wala pa ma-identify no? And highly infectious. Very treacherous ang virus. So kinahanglan tinabangay kita para we can beat the virus. How do we beat the virus? Stop the infection. Contain the spread of the virus. Kung dili na siya maka-infect, matay siya. So, depensa lang sa itong kaugalingon. And depensa po para sa itong mga mahal. Tinabangay lang. Thank you.
So, yun no. So, mga ka-IH no, atong hinumduman, no, nga magtinabangay lang yun ta. Grabe no. Speaking of tinabangay, ang In Harmony, dako kay pasalamat sa naghatag sa ilahang mga donations. We have received your donations of clothes, your towels, and even cash donations of 7,500 na itong ipadala sa ato ang mga kababayan dito sa Luzon, sa Cagayan Valley, because of our campaign na #Cagayan para sa Cagayan. And if you still want to donate, this is our last day to receive your donations monetarily and in kind. So flashed on your screen is ang inyuhang pamaagi. You can send GCash through our kauban, Joshua Jones Waban, 0975-622-7179, or through our BPI na account. It's 9336365078 para mapahatag pataog mga daghang hinabang dito sa atuang mga kapwa. Alright? So, and of course, you can drop in your donations din ha sa mga university by the guardhouse at the USTP CDO campus. So, yon, we'll be expecting your share sa ato mga kapwa. And of course, it's the holiday season na. So, for your gifts, wrapping ang mga needs, please drop by. No? Naa siya sa SM Downtown. Okay? Naa din ha ang guwapa, bongga kayo nga gift wrapping sa atong 9,000 gifts by the 9,000 events. Drop by na sila din ha sa activity center and you will be para mas mapagwapa pag yun ang inyuhang mga regalo nga ihatagay dihang dapita. So, yon siya no? Og sa ato mga kapwa din ha, hello sa inyo ha. Karong mga panahona, okay, move on ta sa pag-introduce sa ato ang pinakauna nga bisita. He is, grabe, salamat kaayo sa imong time karon pala magpasalamat nako daano kay medyo busy kay ni gyud siya, but he shared his time and talent sa ato. He is from Cebu. Bisdak daw siya, ingon siya. Climate justice activist and international speaker on leadership, sustainability, and green business. His passion for people and the planet brought him to help and mobilize eco actions in the island and indigenous communities. His training, experience, and global involvement in social enterprise and sustainable development made a mark because of his dedicated commitment to sharing this with the grassroots communities. Daghan kay ni siya mga involvements like in campaigns and organizations like with former US Vice President Al Gore's Climate Reality Project, He's also one of the he's also a national convener and prime mover of Let's Do It Philippines movement, National Cleanup Day, and the latest with this COVID was the Food Gardens movement to promote food security for COVID-19. Mga ka-IH, we are so privileged to be joined with us this afternoon to share one of his mga advocacies, the founder and executive director of Sustainable Energy and Enterprise Development for Communities, or SEED for movement. Help me welcome all the way from Cebu, Dan Diaz. Hello, hello, hello. Kumusta diha, Sir Dan? How are you? Yes, nandiyan ta.
Yes, maayong
Kamustamos?
hapon, and yes, Angel, maayong hapon, and to all doing great, and maayong hapon to all listeners of In Harmony. We are harmony with nature, we coexist with nature, and we are interconnected. As stewards of creation, we have to help and respond to the recent calamity happening. So, yeah, so thank you very
Correct.
much for having me here.
Yes, no, salamat jud kaayo gyud pod, but Sir Dan, I understand that you have a project that you have started way
Mm.
back pa on para makahatag og assistance sa atong mga affected ng mga communities, not just for disaster.
Mhm.
You etong solar lamp, could you share
Yeah.
us about this?
Okay, so currently we have an ongoing campaign. It started in 2017 during the calamity of the earthquake in Leyte. And with that, we had an idea to have an eco help or eco tabang response. So the idea here is
Mm,
when we provide help, it should be sustainable as well. So such as
mm,
providing a banig that were weaved by women, and we purchase like in bulk soap or detergent made by women in the local community, less packaging, so less waste, and at the same time
yeah.
pail. And then we found out that they need also lights because they are kanang na display sila, and they lived in
Mm,
tents, and it was expected that they'll be staying there for 3 to 6 months kay walay
mm,
kuryente because it in another
mm,
place they were asked to move out from their house. So that
mm,
was the first eco tabang response that we did in Leyte. And every year there's so
mm,
much calamity. The Philippines is battered with 24 typhoons in a year, and this month we have three successive typhoons. And we respond to the Eco Tabang. Although I'm in
mm,
Cebu, but we have teams that we've trained all over the Philippines. The
mm,
scouts and those who were trained, especially the Paranaque Eagle Scouts, those who were trained, they are also doing these Eco Tabang solar lamps. And these solar lamps are made by our volunteers. These are
mm,
repairable, these are durable, and it lasts longer than buying a new one made from different countries. So
mhm.
assemble the parts. It's so easy. Even women, mga nanay, lola, no, as long as they know how to solder, even elementary kids knows how to do it. So it's now a movement,
Yeah.
the Eco Tabang solar
Mm.
lamp. This is very
Yeah, so this
helpful
is
kay ngit-ngit kaayo dito sa ilang area. Yes.
correct. Ba, this is the one that we're flashing sa screen nato karon,
Mhm.
no? The ones that, because with before si Rolly, 'di ba, ang mga shoemakers nato sa Marikina were also affected, and the ones that we're showing as you shared with
Mhm.
me is
Mhm.
the beneficiaries, no, of this kaning
Uh-huh.
solar nga suga, 'di ba? Solar
Mhm.
lamp ani sa
Yeah, so
iyaha, no?
mhm. We can assemble it, and we have the do-it-yourself presentation, YouTube, all that you can do. So you can help either by donating the
Mm,
parts. It costs like 300 per kit, and
mm,
we are targeting like 1,000 solar lamps to be given to Luzon, and we've reached like 300 solar lamps already. So we're still asking partners and sponsors to donate in our page. So you can go to our
yeah.
page seed4com and help. And this help brings light of hope. And we're promoting renewable energy. Most
Mm,
of the energy from different countries, they use fossil fuel, and we are impacted as vulnerable countries on climate change because of too much global warming caused by the fossil fuel industry. So that's also
correct.
a campaign that we demand for cleaner energy. Yeah. So kay
Yes.
kunti lang ang mong budget, So we do the lamp. But if we can have more budget, we can do home light, powering up entire island if you want. So that's
Yeah,
we
because
can
you
do
also
that, but
have
it needs help.
yeah, because we also give, 'di ba, like solar charger, like the one that we're showing right now. Dan nga kay 'di ba, communication is very very important sa
Yeah.
especially kanang maano ba affected ka. So you also have this solar na ano charger.
Yes.
Mm-mm.
Yeah. So this is like it can charge 4 phones at the same time, and in off-grid areas like we also discovered nga kahit wala pa day disaster, what is like kuryente. So
Aha.
even after the typhoon calamity, so they're so
Mm-mm.
fortunate and happy na naka-receive sila solar lamp because they're still using kerosene and health risks sa
Mm.
ilaha. So with the solar lamp,
Correct.
it also promotes health to our partner beneficiary. That's it,
Correct.
Angel. Yeah, thank you very
Yeah.
much for plugging us here.
Yeah, that but Dan, this is just the beginning, 'di ba? Ato lang ano, usabuan
Yes.
lang siya og ano because Dan will be joining us by January to share actually gid iyang advocacy. This is only an
Mm.
introduction of what they're doing. So again, no, panawagan nato sa atong mga ka-IH, sa atong viewers karon, mga
Yeah.
panahon na call for donations para matagaan og suga ang atong mga kapwa dito sa Luzon no affected. You can check Seed for Com na page sa Facebook. Dali ra kay na siya pangitahon and flash on the screen now are the account numbers
Mhm.
and account names where you can send in your donations. Quick question, Dan, because
Yeah,
this
yeah.
kani inyong technology is pwede man gud siya magamit pod sa kaning mga hinterlands nga wala pa siya kuryente.
Yeah.
What if
Island.
like somebody would want to sponsor like a community para mahatagan og suga? How's that going to be?
Yeah. So they can just
Hmm.
go to our page and we're happy to train them and then they can build their own locally, partner with schools or engineers, with our volunteers
Mm.
nationwide because our NGO is also
Mm.
nationwide. And then you can give it to your designated beneficiary that are wala pa sa kuryente. So it's not necessarily during typhoon or calamity, you know.
Yes.
So you
Oo.
can promote this be a hero of light. So that's it.
Yes.
And then we're happy that our scouts is very doing well, and then they are on the news. And thank you for our partners, sponsors helping us in this initiative. So we
Oo.
are 300 solar lamp assembled, and we're hoping to reach like 1,000 families to be given. Yeah. So thank you very
Correct.
much for this short sing it of In
Mm.
Harmony.
Oo.
Yeah. So
Lagi
it's
ba?
raining here now.
Pastilan, so you have to take care
So
there, Dan. But before
I'm
you
supposed
leave,
to dive. I'm supposed to dive, but this is our second dive for the day. We're cleaning up the marine sanctuary with plastics and fish nets. So we have like
oo.
57 divers from Ugly Grouper, like eco divers. So
Yeah.
all of the
Wow.
plastic in the urban and land goes to the ocean. So now we are cleaning it underwater. Yeah. All
Ay,
right.
my gosh.
So
Saludo sa inyo ha din ha. Take care. And
yeah,
sa atong mga ka-IH, we don't need that dan na gyud sana no. There will come a time nga wala na yung mga dan nga mga divers nga mag-make up dito that mag-dive lang yun tata para ma-enjoy na to ang
yeah.
underwater. Di ba, Dan? Ana
Yes, I
siya.
encourage
Oo.
everyone to learn to dive and see the blue planet because our planet is 70% water. So we are just on land and the surface, and underwater has so much wonderful and beautiful sights to see, the biodiversity, and you will love it. So learn to dive, be safe,
Yeah.
everyone.
Take care there and then you'll be sharing this video about more pa sa about sa inyong solar
Yeah.
lamp, di ba? So
Oh,
ate will
yeah.
share
So
this.
it was
Oo.
a response in Taal. So you have to get to know how it had helped communities in disaster as well as off-grid communities. So support us and be our hero of light in partnership with In Harmony because we are all of this together in one planet as all children of God and stewards for His creation. Thank you very much. Maayong
Yay! Take
hapon.
care! And yeah, salamat kayo. Take care ha, Amping Kanunay, and see you again.
I will. Yeah. Bye.
Buyers. And so mga ka-IH, no, we'll share with you this video. Thanks to News Outfit for sharing this with and also so Dan nag-share at sa to ano for you to really understand kung kanilang project nga pailaw sa mga communities nato, not just for those typhoon nga mga victims but anywhere para makapahatag tag suga sa ato ang mga kapwa. So please watch this.
Ang Laurel, Batangas ay isa sa mga lugar na lubhang naapektuhan ng pagsabog ng Bulkang Taal noong January 12. Ito na ngayon ang Laurel, Batangas. Bagamat marami sa mga residente dito ay nagsibalikan na sa kanilang mga tahanan, ay kita pa rin ang bakas ng naging pagsabog ng Bulkang Taal. At karamihan sa mga barangay rito, wala pa rin kuryente. Dahil wala pa rin kuryente sa ilang barangay sa Laurel, binigyan sila ng mga solar lamp ng Sustainable Energy and Enterprise Development for Communities o SEED4COM. Isa itong organisasyong tumutulong sa mga lugar na di pa nararating ng serbisyo ng kuryente o di kaya'y nasalanta ng kalamidad. Bukod sa mura at madaling gawin, ay mas ligtas raw itong gamitin kaysa sa ordinaryong gasera.
Yung dati yung gasera, nakakasira siya ng respiratory system. Minsan ano pa siya, ng sunog, prone siya sa sunog. Ito, hindi mo na kailangan pa ng gasera or gas. Ang kailangan mo lang dito is yung mismong light, yung sunlight. Then nag-charge na siya kusa sa battery.
Gamit ang mga simpleng materyales na mabibili sa mga electrical supplies store, maaari nang makagawa ng isang solar lamp. Ang isa nito, nagkakahalaga ng 150 hanggang 200 pesos. At kahit sino raw ay maaaring makagawa nito.
Even grade school po kayang gumawa. Kasi meron po tayong mga ibang dinonate dito sa Laurel. Ang gumawa po ay mga taga Cebu na grade 5 hanggang grade 6 po.
Itinuro nila ang paggawa ng mga lampara sa ilang mga empleyado ng munisipyo ng Laurel. Maging kami ay tumulong din sa paggawa. Ito na, tapos na yung ating lamp. So titingnan natin kung gumagana. Sasaksak natin siya dito sa solar panel. Ayan! Meron na tayong ilaw. Matapos nito ay ibinahagi ang mga solar lamp sa evacuation center. Sa ngayon ay may 2,000 residente ng Laurel, Batangas ang hindi pa rin nakababalik sa kanilang mga tahanan.
Nagpapasalamat po kaming lahat at kami nabigyan po ng ganyan pong ilaw para po pag-uwi namin sa amin dahil wala po kami kuryente ay may magamit na po kami. Siyempre po madilim, lalo po pag sa gabi, mahirap kumilos. Kaya po hindi kami makauwi sa amin, gawa ng wala nga po kuryente pa.
Para kay Ian, ang kanilang simpleng donasyon ay may mas malalim na simbolo.
Itong donation na to, once na binigay namin, alam namin yung light na binibigay namin sa kanila, parang panibagong buhay ulit doon sa mga nasa lantapok.
Sa ganitong pagkakataong may ilang tila nalulugmok sa kadilimang dala ng kalamidad, may ilang pa rin pinipiling magbigay ng pag-asa at liwanag sa simpleng paraan. Mula sa Laurel, Batangas, para sa Panahon TV, ako si Cathy San Gabriel.
Yun, no? Salamat kaayo sa Panahon TV ug sa Kang Dan, yes, for sharing their technology with us. So again, mga ka-IH, no? For only 300 pesos, makahatag na ka og pailaw sa isa ka balay. No? So, this Christmas, you wouldn't want, no, nga, naiuban nga, naapagid siya sa ngit-ngit. Gakiblat-kiblat na itong mga suga din, ha, kaya natin mga Christmas lights, o niya, napatay uban na itong mga kapwa nga, kulangan pag yun ay sila og mga suga. So, you might want to sponsor. Please get in touch. We will be sharing again on the page kung how you can get in touch with Seed4Com, or you can go directly to their page, Seed4Com, 4 nga then COM, para maka-contact mo para paghatag sa ato ang mga sa tabang dito sa ato ang mga kapwa. So, who's viewing us this afternoon? Wow, Earl John is saying hello, good afternoon. And of course, Perlet is saying also good afternoon, IH. We miss you, Perlet. I hope na you're doing great din hang the pita. And of course, Tita Earl, hello din ha sa inyo ha. And yon, eto na nga talaga ang ato ang istoryahon karon, no? If you're from Cagayan de Oro, di ka na ka makaila sa iya, di ka taga Cagayan de Oro. No? Kay she is good, 'di ba? Actually ako personally wa siya kibaw ani. Makadungog ko sa iyang ngalan, ma-amaze na gyud ko, and then I finally met her and get to know her work, 'di ba? Nagsumpay ang mong advocacy ug karon naa siya mag-uban sa ato this afternoon to share their advocacy, especially diri sa ato sa Northern Mindanao, ba? She's a teacher also, just like me, but also but an advocate, and the executive director of the Cagayan de Oro River Basin Management Council. So kailan na siguro mo niya, no? Mga ka-IH, help me welcome no less than Dr. Hailian Roa Kiawit. Hello. Good afternoon.
Hello. Thank you for inviting Angel. Thank you for the intro.
Happy Sabbath. And nalimtan na ako, no? Dili ta mag-uol kung wala na si Madam Gina Lopez kay naa gyud siya mo sunuray. Si Hailey gyud siya din sa iya. Di ba? Oh, sa iyang mga advocacies, no? Yun. So, Hail, basig sa atong mga ka-IH ba, wala pa bitaw kay sila nakadungo kay baloon sa dining CDO River Basin Management Council. Basig ano, pwede ta maka-share unsa din siya.
Sige, it's a voluntary multi-sectoral group. It was originally 89 member organizations created by the Archdiocese of Cagayan de Oro, Bishop Ledesma in 2010 with DNR 10. And it has continued in a voluntary spirit, as I've mentioned. So now we are almost 10 years, and we are like a platform where we harmonize efforts or settle some issues regarding our CDO River Basin. So it's an environmental multi-sectoral platform.
Yun, 'di ba? So, dako kaayo ang atong river basin, no? Dili lang ka nagakakita nato nga diri sa Cagayan de Oro. Napa na siya yung upstream, 'di ba? Nga mga parts. So, daghan kay sila pwede ma-involve sa kung unsaon nato para maprotektahan ang ato ang river basin nga. Di na mausab ang ato ang Sendong, 'di ba? Kay survivor here. 'Di ba? So, yun. So, but inyuhang group karon, Hail, is focused on the ecosystem. Karon jud siya, no, importante kayo, no? On the ecosystem, PES, no?
Yeah. It's basically a group on the environmental protection, conservation, rehabilitation. But in the recent years, we have focused on the advocacy of ecosystem services, where I will talk more in a while.
Yeah. So, yon. So, murag ang kanang in a while, ato na siyang sugdan siguro, kay interesado na sila kaayo. So, please to go ahead, Hail, unsa ning ecosystem services, PES, that you kay sa ato murag magsitag ingon nga dapat mutabang mo sa ato ang environment, pero yun, pero ang question is sa unsa pa gyud nga paagi ba, kay dako kayo ang kumayo kag istoryahon nun nga environment.
Sige. Okay. Again, thank you for giving us a venue to talk about our work, and hopefully also let you know what we're doing in Mindanao and the form of stewardship in our case. I'll basically divide the talk into three. I'll talk about how our lives are so much connected to the environment, and this is what we call as ecosystem services, and how they should be approached and managed, and what we have done so far, and which you can also replicate or join later. if you're interested. So
Yeah.
basically, people always take for granted that all this thing that we get from the environment are infinite. I mean, God will continuously provide. So these are what we call as the direct and indirect benefits from the environment. In technical
Mm-mm.
terms, this has gained in terms of momentum already. It's called
Mm-mm.
ecosystem services. In some cases, it's
Ah.
called ecological services. In some, it's
Mm-mm.
called in ecological, ecosystem, or environmental services. But what's important are the services, the goods and services that we get from the environment. So there
Oo.
are actually four types. And I hope by the time we're done, you would be, this will be your take home lesson, no? So I'll
Mm-mm.
expound on each of that. So there's what we call as provisioning, as the word
Okay.
provide, no? So God
Provision.
provides.
Mm-mm.
So these are the products that we get from the environment. So like water, food, fiber, and other stuff that we are getting in order to survive as well. The other one is what we call as the supporting services. These are not very obvious. This is something that we just take for granted, but very much critical for life to sustain. So,
Mm-mm.
like the nutrient cycle, which we always take for granted, but actually that's very
Yeah.
much critical to enrich the soil for fruits, for trees to grow. Yeah.
Mm-mm.
And the third one is what we call as an example of this is biodiversity. Again, I think this is in a way related to COVID, no? That
Yeah.
many were saying scientists like probably one of the indirect effect of the reduction of these diverse organisms that we have could be also related to COVID. But this is
Correct.
the range of flora and no range of animals and plants. I'm not trying to be
Yeah.
technical that we have in our natural environment.
Uh-uh.
So the third group is what we call as the cultural services. This is very much again taken for granted, but it's again gaining momentum, like what we call as ecotourism, recreational services that the environment is giving. Like when you go
Mm.
camping, when you go hiking, those are actually
Mm-mm.
services that the environment is
The-
giving you. So this is something intangible. But in Mindanao in
Yeah.
particular, this is very much important because we are the tribe people. We have the indigenous groups, our
Mm-mm.
sisters and brothers in the Muslim faith, and us Christians. So in particular in Mindanao, we have many of our areas that are called ancestral domains, which are very much sacred and blessed areas of our indigenous brothers and sisters. So the
Oo.
last ecosystem service that we are really focusing on is what we call as the regulating services. These are the benefits obtained when the environment is very much intact. So like when you go up to Bukidnon or you go up to Baguio, you have this micro cool climate. That's a sample of
Yeah.
a regulating
Correct.
service. And there's a movement now about pollination, which we have taken for granted, but without the bees, we won't have the flowers and the fruits. So those are things that nature has been given us, but we take for granted. In particular, in
Mm-mm.
our case here in Mindanao, we focus on these regulating services because we happen to have the perfect recipe for disaster, as mentioned earlier by Angel about the Sendong. Why is that?
Mm-mm.
This is where we are. We are now in Cagayan de Oro City, and we are part of a bigger landscape called the CDO River Basin. So when you talk
Yeah.
about environment, it should not be political. So when the Cagayan de Oro City will want to work on environment, it cannot just focus within its jurisdiction because much of the inputs of water that causes flooding, much of the inputs of this erosion are coming from the upland. So this is what we call as an ecosystem-based approach to management. And we've been attempting and with a little success already over the years. So, for example, here we have three upland municipalities and one downstream city. And this is the hub, northern hub for Cagaya, for northern Mindanao. So you see the interconnectivity of these four municipalities. So the impact then is that what happens is that upland, we have two headwaters, which we call KitKat. Now, Mount Kitanglad, Mount Kalatungan. Very much steep. So you have this precarious
Kat.
morphology. Kit Kat, yeah. I mean, and I know it's very Americanized,
Kayo.
but I think it
Yeah.
rings bell to the students. No? Then apart
Yeah.
from that, we have so many different activities upland, and you know, Mindanao is a food basket, so you have agro industries and also some illegal activities and some other activities for economic development. So in the end, we have the new dead headwaters. So if you look at the picture here, much of our forest, which used to be here, is now gone. So it's all barren. So if you have those
Wow.
ingredients, and we have heavy rainfall, this is what is always going on that we see for the past years in one of the rivers here. It's called Ipunan River. We call it the chocolate river. It has never stopped its color, but in the recent years, the city of CDO has been very much active, and it's not as dark as before. But apart from the
Yay, that's
siltation,
good news.
in, yes, Mindanao, as you know, is the power source for hydro dams, hydroelectric power. So if we have too much siltation, it will also reduce the level of the water, so less power will be generated. So you see the interconnectivity again. Another
Yeah.
impact for this interconnectivity is that as you go further down from the uplands through the rivers and now a bit midstream, there are also some mining activities here. You see these scars here of the hills. These are caused by small scale mining. So on top of that upland and you go further midstream, so you have further load of sediments that will go down into the coast. In particular, our bay is called Makahalar Bay. So, as you can see here, this is what we call as a plume. Yeah. So it has definitely impact to the marine environment. What used to be a thriving community will eventually be covered with soil. We call it silt, and this will
Yeah.
suffocate as well the coral and the seagrass community. So you eventually have a barren community similar to the upland. So apart from the impact of the environment, all this water that moves up from the headwaters will now flow as surface runoff and become this big wave of water causing disaster through floods. And this has been what happened, unfortunately, in 2011. But still, being
Yeah.
Filipinos, the fiesta and the parties must continue. So even with all this flooding, the delivery of lechon will still push through. No.
Yeah, the famous
So,
lechon.
yeah. So apart from the flooding, we also have another problem, which is the water insecurity, which I think many are experiencing now. In fact, if you are not aware, as early as 2007, we have already been categorized as a water insecure city. No, we will eventually have problems in the future. And we should take note of this because if you look at this illustration here, as early as 1950s, many of what used to be vegetative cover in green. Of course, you cannot help it, but because Cagayan is a thriving city, many have been converted into built-up areas. So you see less areas where the water can really go into the ground for us to get our supply. So third one is that many of our what we call as pumping stations have been checked to be decreasing, meaning it has gone deeper into the ground to get access to water. So there are signs of already of being stressed. No? And on top of that is that we are a coastal city and Philippines is an archipelagic country. So we have a problem with sea level rise, meaning to say that in time the level of the water from the sea will be increasing a few centimeters. So what will happen is that if we get too much water on the ground, there's a what we call as a subsidence. So it means that what used to be the same water level with the sea is that the fresh water level has gone down. So in one strong wave action, in one movement of the water over time, some of this seawater will penetrate into our fresh water, and this is irreversible. Meaning to say, once you have seawater in your groundwater, you cannot change anything. then you will always
Wow.
taste this brackish water. So you see, we really have to do something about these water stresses that we are experiencing. So how do we attempt that? You see, in the environment, as many say, they don't need us, yeah. But since we are here, we've done something. Let me show you what we've done in terms of helping the management of the environment. We started off in Makahalar Bay, this big coastal bay. This is Cagayan, as I've mentioned. I'm a marine biologist by profession, so we started working in the marine, and we realized that we need people to be on board because the water from one area is the same, no, in terms of one municipality and so what we did, because we are also scientists, we use a very technical oceanographic study, and we showed this to the mayors, and this was finally what convinced them. You see this, the fish from one municipality actually is connected to another municipality, which is politically different colors, or also
Oo.
politically not friendly with that mayor. So it shows that during changing season, like Kinugitan will provide the seedlings for Lagindingan. During Habagat, Lagindingan will provide the seedlings for Kinugitan. So you see the interplay of the waters, because the fish doesn't care if it moves from one water, it moves to the next. It doesn't care of the political color. So this finally convinced the different mayors to come together in what we call as a bay-wide coastal management. So in the environment, you see that the local government unit, apart from the national government and the national government agencies, has a very critical role because they have the jurisdiction over the environment. So in our case, with the Makahalar Bay Development Alliance, after 2 years of working, we finally established the Makahalar Bay Development Alliance of 12 municipalities and 1 province, MISOR, and 2 cities, 1 chartered, which is Cagayan, and 1 component, El Salvador. Until now, it is working and doing as much effort with the different local governments to do coastal management. But then we realized that, you know, whatever we do in the coast, one strong rain, as shown earlier, will also affect our efforts. So we've decided to go up. Now we've decided to go upland. And here we've worked with the CDO River Basin Management Group. And as I've mentioned earlier, this has been almost 10 years now, and it's co-chaired by the different national government agencies through the regional directors and some other members. So it's basically aimed for the restoration of the CDO River Basin, but we have scaled up because we realized that working in one river basin, we should also work in the bigger adjacent river basin, which we call as the Gulwan River Basin. Because you see, the impact of the Gulwan and the others will affect the seascape. And now we are at the stage where we're doing an alignment of all these management plans of this bigger expanded ecosystem in the landscape and the seascape. So we still have a long way to go, but at least we have made the initial steps, no? And now we have what we call as a roadmap. We have a theory of change, we call it. We have a vision of what we wanted, that eventually, we don't know how many years, maybe my grandchildren, will have a sustainable and healthy ecosystem, but with an empowered community. So now we know where to go, and we have a goal that we wanted to reach as a multi-sectoral group. So in particular, is that we also realized that Mindanao, you know, being a special area, we wanted also to replicate what we're doing in the adjacent corridors. No? So this is a bigger Agusan River Basin, and we've worked with this group. And here in particular, they have the very famous Agusan Marsh. I don't know if you're all familiar with it. And the Agusan Marsh here is supposed to be the water storage. So these upland communities here with the mining and other activities, all this water is supposed to be stored here in Agusan Marsh. But again, similarly with what happened here in our CDO River Basin, is that much of the water and the eroded materials are dumped into the Agusan Marsh such that it has become shallow, so it cannot store as much water. So whenever they have tropical storm, it will backflow into the municipalities or all go into Butuan City. So similarly, they will experience flooding. And I'm trying to show you that in these three river basins, it doesn't matter where you are, it would have the same basic principles that the upland is connected to the lowland and the water will always go down. And I think we've heard that recently with also up in Cagayan Valley, no?
Yeah.
So this is where we are in terms of Mindanao. And what have we done so far in terms of stewardship? Because we remember we were created by the Archdiocese. We use the very simple premise of this simple illustration that if we have more vegetation, you will have more water going to the ground and less water as surface runoff and flooding. So what we've done is that with some of the different colleagues and experts, we have sort of narrowed down how many in terms of hectareage we need. So we still have such a long way to go, yeah. But at least we've started, as I've mentioned. So what we did was we came up with a restoration model, incorporating what we call as the 3 Ps. We ensure that there is protection, yeah, the P,
Yeah.
and the protection is intercropping of indigenous trees with a commercially viable crop, because we also wanted to have the product, which is equivalent to profit, so that the third P, the people who are going to do this, the people's organization or whatever NGO, we also have supplemental income. So meaning they do protection, not just for them, but they also protect us downstream. And even to the point where we have come up with a cost and the yearly breakdown and even the people's organization that would be willing to work this out. So if you're interested, we can discuss this more. So
Yeah.
an example is what we did in Agusan River Basin, mentioned earlier. So in 2014-16, we worked with them and we've applied that. And look at what happened now after, this was last year. I like this picture very much of Manong Ondong. See, so it used to be eroded, but look at all these vetiver grass and fruit trees, no? As shown
Yay.
earlier in the diagram. Yeah, so hopefully we'll have more areas like this, no? Another model that we are doing is the intercropping of other commercially viable trees and crops as mentioned. So this one is with coffee, with the Kitanglad Guard volunteers. And what I'll show you is the intercropping with cacao. Again, similarly there in Agusan, but this time instead of the river, it's along the slope. So you see the slope here. And this is what is going on now. See Manang Inday with her logbook for the recording. You see already the cacao, no, ready for harvest. So this is what we mean about the 3 Ps. So you have the protection of the slope, you have a product that they can use for the supplemental income for the people that will be doing this work. So the third is what we call as the kauyagan. And here it's a different model. They're really maximizing the use of the slope. Again, using commercially viable crops. And this is with the Hinelban Foundation of Unifruti. And they have a different type of succession. And here you see the Casatraco and the Talaandig tribe doing the restoration effort.
Yeah.
So, but all this, to ensure that this restoration work will require funds. So this is what we call as a payment for environmental services. And let me explain a bit what this is. You see in this diagram, this is a typical water district. When you pay your water bill, you're actually paying for the facility that will pump the water from the ground to your faucet, to your houses. That is the bill. What we do not see is that the water is actually not coming from the water district, but coming from the environment.
True.
See? So if we have more of this vegetation, these trees, then we will have more water that can be pumped by a water district. So why are we not paying the environment? this is what we mean. Payment for environmental services. We pay the environment also, so it will continuously recharge and be healthy to provide these ecosystem services. In particular is water. So I hope you get this concept across, yeah? So
Yeah.
what we're doing now, again, in our landscape seascape, is that, remember, we are connected, is that first is, there has to be a facilitating mechanism to harmonize all these financial tracks that will ensure that the environment will be healthy. In our case, it's the CDO River Basin Management. We've been assisted by IUCN and EcoAgri in the USA. So we are like the funnel to ensure that this different support will be used for whatever priority programs and needs. No? So for example, in the local governments of the CDO River Basin, in fairness, after Sendong, there is a MOA to ensure that remember, Cagayan should not work on its own, but should work with the upland municipality. So they have a
Yes.
MOA. But typical of the government, it's just on paper. So what we did as a management platform is we initiated to reactivate this. And now they have provided annual funds for the restoration of the environment. See, this is the role of a multi-sectoral body that will push, no? So for example, this is for the upland in Talakag, where they have allocated for the headwater of Kalatungan. Apart from we call it the disaster funds, we have been very active advocating for what we call as the PES ordinance, meaning an ordinance that would really ensure that there will be money for the ecosystem services, the PES ordinance. And the city, after so many years of lobbying, I think 6 years, finally this council has approved it. And what's quite unique about the city is, rather than putting the fee on us, the community, is that they have allocated 10 million pesos a year for the restoration of the watersheds in the city and also within the entire river basin. And that's very good. And we've started, and we've come up now with the implementing rules and guidelines. In the upland municipalities, remember in Libona, where the other headwater Kitanglad is, they also have the ordinance through the champion here. And here they will add water tariff for their water rates to be used for the restoration of the watersheds and the headwaters. I have indicated also the champion because we realized in our lobbying work that it is very much important to have a champion in the council. So so in the other municipality for the Kalatungan part is here, the LGU have been having this ordinance as early as 2015, but they have to revamp their water system. But now they are finalizing their ordinance and it should be signed. It's supposed to be last week, but it did push through. So hopefully by December, they will have the ordinance also. Again, funds to rehabilitate the Kalatungan, one of the headwaters that I've mentioned. So 3 out of the 4 LGUs, we're still working with Baungon for the ordinance. So apart from the LGUs, we have already worked with the business sector, because we also have to tap them because they have the money. So in this case, this is a very, let's say, a pioneering one. Unifruti, John Perrine here, is working with the Talaandig tribe in Bukidnon, where they use the ancestral domain for the plantation of banana and pineapple. And they have made an arrangement of an annual allocation of the funds for the use of the Talaandig tribe. Apart from their needs, like a tribal hall for scholarships, is also to ensure that the integrity of the ecosystem is there. Because it's a whole value chain. If it's not going to be protected, the business will collapse. So it's a good cycle, no? Another one, which is again very much novel here, and we've started it here first time in the Philippines, is a river basin type of ecosystem services. We are here. So we have our indigenous brothers and sisters in Mount Kitanglad, and they're the Milalitra group. In their ancestral domain, they have come up with a cost to restore the Kalatungan range. And so they will restore that because they will provide the service of reducing flood risk to us here in Cagayan and also ensuring in the future that the water is secure. So these are the ecosystem services they are selling to us. And the buyers are those who benefit. So us, like the businesses in Cagayan, we have students and school organizations and companies that have really joined this. And it's a really very good effort. Like I really like it, especially for the grade schoolers, rather than giving it out for whatever activities they have decided to bring it here to Milalitra. But what's unique here again is that it's not always common that in a PES setup you have a fund manager, and in this case we have the Xavier Science Foundation that will facilitate the partnership between the buyers and the sellers. So another type of PES are the what we call as an insurance fund. Remember, like our KitKat are actually being taken care of by the guard volunteers. They now call themselves the Kitanglad Guard Volunteers, KGVs, but now it's called Kitanglad Kalatungan Guard Volunteers for the two headwaters. They don't get as much in terms of honorarium or support, and they don't need it actually, because for them the environment is very much intertwined to their existence.
Correct.
It's just that when they get sick, when they need something, the honorarium that is being provided is not enough. And this is where we also have a new type of PES. And this is being managed by the Kitanglad Integrated NGO. It's not strong yet, but I hope we get more people to support this. Okay, another type of PES is again with a semi-government group. Remember, for example, this water district, the business is supplying water. How can it ensure its supply over years if it will not do something on the recharge? Remember the one we showed you earlier. So we were very successful in lobbying with the Cagayan de Oro Water District last year, and we were able to ensure that they have agreed to provide 4 to 6 million pesos a year for the restoration and the recharge of the watersheds in the city and elsewhere. See, so this is what we mean, that we just have to let them know of the whole chain,
Scenario.
of that window where the environment actually provides, because that is something new and people are not aware. So let me so also apart from those payments for environmental services from the government, we also need funds, from outside support, because it's hard to get people on board, especially the business, if we don't have the proof of concept. So in this case, you need the grants, the project grants. And in our case, we got from the Netherlands government, this one with the IUCN in terms of the piloting with the Safer River Foundation for Barangay Lumbia, Mambuaya, and I forgot, for the riverbank restoration. And then another one with VEI, VTENS. It's a foundation for all the water companies in Netherlands. And here, they have realized that they will help the COWD here, the Cagayan de Oro Water District, to provide water. But then again, it was a realization for them that they should not just work on hard infrastructure and hard engineering, but for the water to be ensured in its supply, they have to work with the environment. So rather than have this, which is I think what's going on, especially in Manila, is we are starting and we have realized, and we have to make sure we always have this right side of the equation. So, but you see, we have already prioritized where these areas for restoration are. We call this the high-risk areas in pink. And the greens are the efforts of existing restoration, mostly from the Department of Environment and Natural Resources in their NGP and INREM, and other private and individuals and other companies. But you see the greens, they haven't really hit even the priority areas. So we still have a long way to go. We still have to partner with the different sectors, but we're not worried, because I think people are now realizing that the flow of these ecosystem services are very much important. And to do that, we need to restore our environment. So let me end with this video, but I think it will be Angel that will be playing this or me. I'll do it
Sige,
or
try.
ikaw.
Sige, go ahead,
Uh,
Hiles. Ah,
I'll try. This is a video we made with my team and my son to drive across the point why we need to restore.
oh, wala yung audio file. Would you like that I share it? Para maano, ang audio pa?
Sige, can say yes? Oo. I will
Sige,
stop it.
sige. Okay.
Sige.
I'll ano lang sa imuhang, I'll remove lang your share, your ano. So, let's
Yeah.
try
Okay.
this. Kay sayang ang audio. Bitaw, apart from the
Yeah.
visual. Play. Hold on lang. Yun.
Yes, thank you.
So, yun. So,
Oh, sorry.
yun na nga. That ends. Yun siya, di ba?
Yeah, that ends
So,
the presentation. Yeah.
So, salamat kayo, Hail, no? So, we have actually viewers. I'll mention lang sa ilaha, no? Shout out sa ilaha for joining us this afternoon. We have, of course, Efren Mercado saying, before ta mag-entertain, before na ko ihatag sa mga, because we have few questions from our live na mga viewers. Efren is saying, with the screen name of Jose Marie Villegas Mercado, mayong hapon sa lahat, good afternoon, Doc Hailey, the synonym of poor environment. O, di ba? When it's Hailey, it's
Wow.
excited here to learn more on environment from an expert. Kaya, yun, Fra, I'm so excited for this afternoon, yun siya. And, Ma'am Manens, Phoebe May Juanico is watching also. And imuhang kauban sa department na sa USTP, si Ma'am Nelfa Villanueva is also watching with us. Phoebe is saying, watching with you. Yeah. And Yashi, nananaw si Yashi karon, Hail. Share. Yeah, Hail. Diba? Oh, hala. Karon, lalagid si Hailey Yash. Katong last time ikaw. Diba? And of course, Hobart Savior is saying hi sa ato ang duha. Hello, Manang and Hailey. Sana to iyahang ayun, no? Hello, Hailey Ann Roa Kiawit and Manang Angie. Hello, Manang Hobart. I'll read your question in a bit. Basta sabi-sabi Oo. Meisha Hoshi is watching. Francis Jun Makalam is also watching with us. Chris Buntag, MLL Lawanza, Ezel is also watching with us, and so are other mga ka-berks na to. So, hi! Indot kay no. So, given gud siya ba nga while we say that the environment is there free, gahatag sa tuag services, pero we also have to pay, 'di ba? We have to give back also para mo padayon na siya og sustain, 'di ba? Kay katong bitong gingon nga infinite kuno ang environment pero naman gud siya kung mahurot niya gud sa tao, 'di ba? Wala na gud siya. So, Hail, mag-entertain ta og question.
Yeah. Can I just
Yeah.
before
Sure.
that, Actually,
Mm.
I know the use of the word payments is not very much
Oo.
sexy. It's not, it's not it will not get the buy-in. So we're trying to
Correct.
use the word rewards for the environment, or protecting
Mm.
the, instead of PS na payments, we say protecting the ecosystem services, because
Ayun.
it's just that we have used the environment so much that we just really need funds to restore it rather than wait for natural regeneration.
Lagi, 'di
So yeah,
ba? Oo.
rewarding is the better word.
Correct. Murabag, yeah, you've given me food, you've given me free hiking experience,
Yeah,
now I'm giving you back. 'Di ba? Mas ano bitaw siya,
yeah.
no, mas acceptable siya kaysa naman kung
Ah,
payment kay
oo.
murag ang payment kay murag
Mm,
bugat kaayo
really.
sa uban. 'Di
Yeah.
ba? Unya moingon
Oo.
dayon it connotes na dayon ka ng cash, 'di ba? But in
Yeah.
fact it comes in many forms, 'di ba? So,
Mm, correct.
yun. So, are we, na question? We have few questions here. Kyle, entertain ta
Mm.
from ENP. Hello, Sherwin Obosa Ramosa. Hello. President siya sa ACG, Cagayan de Oro. Question daw ko, is there a possibility to include this topic in basic education curriculum? Any thoughts on this aspect of environmental education?
Thank you, Efren,
Ma-incorporate.
right?
Si
Yeah.
Sherwin.
It's
Sherwin
Sherwin, sorry.
Ramosa.
Yes, yeah.
Oo. Hmm.
Yes. Thank you so much, Sherwin, for this question, because we're actually doing that. We've started to communicate with DepEd 10 for now, because we thought it would be nice to come up with a localized context on some of their curriculum subjects. And we started that last year, but we were not able to pursue it because of COVID. But yeah, definitely, it's good to know that at least our effort, we also recognize that there is really a need to proceed on that initiative. Thank you.
Yay! And basin, 'di ba, the ACG of ENP sa Cagayan de
Oh
Oro would
yeah,
also
they can
lobby
help.
with, oo,
Yes,
'di ba, para
tama.
ano-ano.
Mm.
So yun, 'di ba? And Manang Hobart is saying, I love this question. O Manang, buti
Yeah,
pwede din
Hobart.
ha.
See, Hobart, we're supposed to come up with some, dance and drama for environment, and we will pursue that because he's yeah, we will
Yes.
pursue it, diba, Hobart? We started it
Oo,
in
Manang
Xavier, but we will
Hobart,
continue it in.
correct. Bisag nagbalhin siya didto kay na naman pod ang Safer River, 'di ba? Partner naman siya sa CDORB. So,
Yeah, tama.
oo. So, Manang, comment your confirmation sa ano ni gi gi-live-an kaya
Oo.
bitaw. And speaking of
Put on the spot ko
Hobart,
siya.
oo, na on the spot siya. Medyo matambunan ta kadali hal sa question ni Hobart, no. Are there
Okay lang.
community orientation programs held or to be conducted so we get the full cooperation and participation of the members of the community to restore the ecosystem or the environment and to avoid unbearable climate cost or driven disasters? Nabi the community orientation.
Miss Universe question kaya na si Hobart Sige, oy. Actually, Hobart, we've been doing this, but it's not really full scale. Only in the areas where we're doing the restoration, or in the either in the barangay, because like in the Agusan River Basin area and in some of the demo sites, before we do that is we basically let them understand, especially on the advocacy and ecosystem services, because if they understand, the way they get to be involved is different rather than just for them a simple project. So, but we really like to do it for the whole community of the river basin, but we still have to come up with some materials, Cape knowledge products, and some, as we said, some of your dramas or dance or no.
Correct.
Do that.
'Di ba?
Purok.
Because correct, Manang, kay mo na nato ni tabangan because this entails a change of mindset. Kay naanad na biya sila ba? The changing of the business as usual nga attitude nila kay
Yeah. Oo.
ana. So, behavioral nga change ang isa ka aspeto nga ano.
Yeah.
So,
Oo.
mga,
Yeah.
mga teachers, educators din ha,
Yeah.
diha ta
Oo.
manuludti.
If you look at if you remember in the theory of change, no, the change that we wanted, it's not easy because it's really behavioral change now. If people will not
Correct.
change their perception of how they see the environment, they will just say, "Oh, that's continuous. God will provide."
Yeah.
They will not really seriously get involved to protect the environment. So it's really behavioral.
Correct. Correct, correct, no? And I don't know, it starts, I mean, dili man po hinuon siya lisod, but we have to start somewhere. Na mo
Yeah.
share lang ko ba kato about bitaw sa nila ni John Perrine, because one of our research
Yeah.
communities kato I mentioned, di ba, mga
Ah,
talaan
yeah.
digs. Sila ang
Talaan.
kato nga community naman sila, community man lang ni Waway, but katong sa
Ah,
Talakag sila nga community. Ang ilahang manggong kuan is connected yun ta, even our atong kasing-kasing na siya representation sa
oh,
environment. Kanina na gyud bitaw siya. If people siguro will
correct.
start to understand bitaw nga ang paggamit nako sa tubig kato imong gi-illustrate, dili lang na siya kay katurang pumping station imong gibayran, but really
Yeah.
ang ga-provide sa tubig. Kana siguro no we can start thinking that siguro
Yeah.
maka
Um, Sorry, I cannot hear you, Jel. Um, Teka ha. Jel, are you the one who's ano or me? Oh, so you can still hear me? Siguro, I'm not sure if you can still hear me. Jel?
Hi, I can hear you.
Yeah.
Padunggan ako nimo.
Okay. Oh, nadunggan na.
Yeah,
Yes.
nag-change, nagka-technical problem ako ang ako headset
Okay.
ko period.
Yeah.
This is
Yeah. Okay.
muna gid ni siya the beauty of life na technology that
Yeah.
ba so
I
there
will
are things
answer
kind of
the ano. I will the comment of Miss Beth. Yeah, yeah. Thank you
oo.
very much. Yeah, thank you very much that you've made a comment on that. It wasn't easy actually working with the LGUs, but remember we are like 10 years already, so it wasn't easy, no. It took us so many years to establish the relationship with the local government unit. But I think the success we found is that sometimes it's better to work with the department head because when we talk to the mayors, it's very important to get them on board, but they change every 3 years. So that's a critical ingredient in a way, but sometimes if the departments are the one that is really represented in these efforts, there is a
Mm-mm.
certain level of sustainability. But of course, the only problem is that if a new mayor comes in and it will assign a different department, those are the realities that we are facing every 3 years, but we cannot do anything about that. So we just have to respond to it and like start again, explain the setup, explain the advocacy, and they will be on board. So in the next 3 years,
Mm.
another well, that's part of
Oo.
the multi-sectoral governance.
Correct, no? And pero
Mm.
also a reality bitaw that individuals may also consider that mag-change man gani ang leadership, but if the people on the ground are already
Yeah,
conscious, so murag supervision na lang sa LGU nga part, no? Mao na
pwede.
untato,
Oo,
ba?
oo.
Oh,
Mm-mm.
if
Yeah.
but yeah, sa giingon pa ni Hobart, nag-comment po si Hobart, or yes, behavioral change is a sense of cultural sets, and yes, let's work together. Oh, ni-confirm na siya man. Culture for shared meanings for us to pertain as humans. Then the arts will bring us to deeper sense and transcendence. Yun! Manang Hobart,
Sige.
yes, there is commitment to style. But always
Okay,
mag-unite
let's,
Hobart.
yeah, we
Yeah,
will,
the confirmation yun
pursue
kay
it.
yes. Oh, correct.
Sige.
Diba?
Mm.
And there's a question here, Kyle, from a friend.
Yeah.
What is the greatest threat to our river basins? First niya nga question. Then second niya nga question, is 10 million pesos enough a budget from our LGU realizing measures to protect the basins? Salamat po.
Yeah.
The first question,
Um,
so the problema.
yeah.
Hmm.
I think that we believe in our group that the greatest threat, and probably because we're biased, remember we're into the rehabilitation, is really that what used to be forest is not forest anymore. So it's really barren headwaters. And we need to put back a certain level of vegetation, and that's the priority, and we think it's also critical. And we don't have really the science to show, but I think it's really true that having barren or denuded headwater is a major cause of all these disasters that we're feeling in our area. And second is that yes, the 10 million is not enough. In fact, we were very happy with Councillor Nakaya and the City Council that they have allocated this much. We were expecting even less. It's not much, but since it's going to be annual, so it will finally make an effort eventually, especially if it will not be
Yeah.
stopped by the next council. Yes.
Fingers crossed because elections is coming na po.
Yeah.
'Di ba? I hope the ordinance will
Mm.
continue, 'di ba? Because that can be changed, it
Yeah.
can be altered. So, medyo dako gid siya nga istorya honon, dako siya nga trabaho onon Hail ba? Pero but then
Yeah.
again, this is one of the reasons we are talking about this afternoon is
Mm-mm.
para po invite na to ato ang mga
Yeah.
ka-harmony o ato mga viewers to really take part on this. Kyle, you mentioned kanina about sa isa nimong ka-slides about a community adapting as a group
Yeah.
or an organization adapting a community. Basin you want to share more about that because
Yeah.
basin natong mga viewers here that are listening might want also to adapt a community in the
Yeah.
restoration na
Mm.
efforts.
Yeah. Yeah. Actually, remember in one of the maps we showed there are the red areas. We call it the high risk areas, and we have identified some people's organizations that are willing to work on the restoration, and they have their indigenous methods of doing it, indigenous knowledge of the area. But sometimes, as mentioned, we need the starting fund. So what we're doing is we are packaging per hectare, and then we sort of provide a menu to any interested groups, any interested community. That's why I wanted to present here in Harmony because of your religious
Mm,
stewardship. And then we can
mm,
connect you to the PO, and then we can
mm,
facilitate. The restoration model will depend on the area and the appropriate um, all the other details we will work out. So, for example,
mm,
like now we have arranged with two of the IP groups in Baungon to link up with FICO, and FICO is
mm,
helping them with the restoration with cacao. We have
mm.
also linked up a number of POs already with some of the businesses here. I could not say it yet because they haven't
Yeah.
really firmed up. But
Ah.
for example, Del Monte has been a partner at the start. They have contributed indigenous seedlings, which is in kind, but if you put a value, it's already more than ₱1 million. So it doesn't have to be cash really. It can be even the seedlings or other parts of the whole process. So yeah, any type of partnership, we are very much open. We still have a long way to go, and we need as many partners. The role of the council is to ensure, that these are harmonized and consolidated, because in one of our projects, the one I mentioned, the Reach to Coast, we will come up with a model so that we will see, for example, like, okay, in 2022, we have restored this much hectare. The model will then see if it has an impact already on the water storage and the water flow as runoff. And then it will say, no, it did not make a difference yet. So no, meaning to say we have to again look for partners. Yeah, we need more. So we this is what I mean. Like, I'm a scientist, so I'm straddling both science and development, and we use whatever evidence we can, popularize it like we did with the oceanographic. To when we go to the different communities, we tell them at least an evidence-based information. Like, look, we still did not have any effect that we wanted. We still have to get more hectares to be restored. So we have that already. So more people on board, better, good. I don't see any changes in the next 5 years, probably in 10 years, siguro. So I don't even know if I'll see the impact of this in the
Hoy, dili na, we will see. But you are already seeing. No, you're already seeing because, di ba, the LGUs already have their PES, di ba, after pila na siya ka years na they have that. That's a victory in itself na yun siya, Hail. Pero klarohan na nako lang siya, no? If the community wants to partner, the council already have the plan naman ba, the restoration plan. So this PO will only coordinate with you on asa sa sila dapit sa ana nga inyong gi-design nga restoration. Pwede mo so. Okay.
Yep.
So, diba?
Yeah. Even the contract, even the mga guidelines, we have set it up basically to facilitate na it's easier ba for both, especially the POs. They don't want to read contracts. They don't want to check mga reporting. So, mga ingana na case. So, that's also the role of the Xavier Science Foundation in that other PES mechanism that we mentioned.
Nice, no? Kay para at least harmonized gid siya. Kay dili lang siya nga si community feel na ko mag-tree growing ko dihang dapita karon Pax. Tree growing dili siya no? So dili day siya connected to. So nindot siya nga.
Yeah. That's why we also wanted to work with the education sector, because they have these tree planting activities and the other like mga rotaries. Because remember, we have the whole length of the river basin. So we can say like, look, can you prioritize these areas? So that effort, even if it's just one small dot, if you have so many dots in the whole landscape, will have a bigger impact.
Correct. No? So, di ba, Ma'am Beth, basig pwede na to siya malingkuran as our extension na project. Di ba? Ay, ano lang siya. So, si Ma'am Isay pod. No, and also the, coming from the university ba, because I'm wearing hats sa university o sa church. No, nindot siya. And sa ato pong panawagan po sa ato mga ka-IH, no, kato lang siya, no. Siguro it starts with having this mindset ba nga let's give back to the environment. At kung mo give back nga ganita sa atong kapwa tao, let's also give back to Mother Nature yun nga naghatag sa ato ang sustenance.
And Jen, let me just clarify, it's not very expensive. If you look at one model, it's only 150,000 per hectare, and that's over 3 years. The other one is 300 and over 3 years. So like if you're a community of stewards, and you have this much community members, I think you can cover like 10 hectares for this year and another 10 for the next year. So you see the synergy ba? In time, you will have a significant coverage na yun of restored areas.
Yeah. Because ano bitaw, we had 2011 we had Sendong, and like last month or this month we've seen the effect sa Cagayan Valley, no? Two stories of Cagayan North, Cagayan South. And Pareha gyud siya, di ba? Kay upaw na ang ato ang protection dito sa ibabaw. So, let's learn from that kay para maano ta. So,
Mm.
Kyle, nindot kaayo ang ano, we have questions pa ba or comments? Okay. So I think okay na to siya nga mga questions. You basin, Kyle, you have a message sa ato ang mga viewers before we close this episode. Ano, sa ilaha.
Yeah. Oh.
Mm.
Yeah. Again, thank you so much for giving me the chance to talk to you. I know it's not a hard sell because you also understand the concept of stewardship. So I hope in time you also really put that concept. Our house help is watering
It's
the
all
plants
right.
already.
It's okay. It's okay. Okay ra na
Oo,
siya.
oo.
Feel siya
So,
real
so
sa
actually,
atwa.
ang
Oo.
one is my only hope is that even if you're not willing to participate actively, but at least develop the concept that the environment is not there to be exploited, but we really have a stewardship to it. And second, if you're interested to participate either on your own or but with us, you can easily reach us no with through Angel na ano.
Mm.
So yeah,
Yun,
thank you.
'di ba? Oo. Thank you so much kaayo, Kyle. And before
Thank you so much.
i-share lang, thank you tayo. I mean, finally you're with us and then padayon pa gyud no sa ato mga kausa. I-share lang na po ni siya actually. Naari ko isa ka trivia kay last year and this karong pitsaha si Hailey nag-organize og kato inyong R-Cube nga summit and I was one I was part
Yeah.
of it.
Okay.
Murag wow,
Oh, di ba?
anniversary na to ni. Oh, di ba? What's with November
Ten,
28, Hail?
oh
Yes.
yeah, 10 years. 1 year na no?
Yeah, 1 year
Like
na o
really
si R-Cube. Oo.
the Arcade Summit, yeah. Yeah,
Yes.
in that summit, we brought together the different people and organizations in the river basin, di ba, to recognize their
Oo.
effort and ano,
Correct.
the whole
And
landscape.
share.
Tama, no? November, Monday ito.
Yes. November, ni-flash lagi sa ko, na bitaw memory. Salamat, Facebook. Hoy! November 28 dito. And actually, it's
Oo.
from you that naklaro gyud sa ko because like I shared with you the Japanese have this saying that the forest is the lover of the sea. So murag ana gyud ko nga ko ang simple lang ko nga pagsabot is whatever happens to the forest will really affect our
Yeah.
seas. So kung upaw ang
Yes.
ato ang bukid, ang ato mga isda mga
Wala.
wala sa no ato mga dagat, di ba?
Mm,
But na siya sa
oo.
tunga si river. So mo nang mahimong R-cube, di ba? Si
Oo,
ridge,
yes,
si
correct.
river, ug
Yeah.
si reef. Sumpay na sila, isa sila katinai para sa ato. Di ba?
It's good.
So
Yeah.
yun, oo. So yun. So share lang din ako ni
Okay.
Hal before to mo go, no? Para ano lang, let's remember, no? Ato una 3 hours raman siya, reduce, reuse, recycle. But we'll add more R's to that. First is think your choices. Whenever you shop, do you really need this or you want this? And the kind of packaging that you use, kana siya, you think your choices. If you single use, salamat ta sa Cagayan de Oro no kay naanag yun tay pagban sa single use plastic sa atong mga groceries and department stores. Gamay na lang yun kaayo nga sa supermarket unta mawala na gyud na siya no. Ato a wet market nga mawala nang tanan siya nga atong mga plastic kasi ayaw natin ng plastic. And then reduce consumption. Eat what you need, 'di ba? Kay sharing is loving and it's giving. Reuse everything. That's another R. And in line with that, refurbish old stuff. Dili lang siya kay mo, ilabay lang nimo so that you have to repair before you replace. And of course, kung dili na nimo ma-repair, repurpose it. Pareha ng sapatos, di nimo makuan. So, di ba, pwede nimo siya butangan og tanom para mananom na ka og imong mga tanom diya, mahimong mga plantita, plantito. So, gwapa na ang imuhang garden. And of course, recycle is the last option. So let's always remember this. Again, rethink, refuse, reduce, reuse, refurbish, repair, repurpose. And the last one is recycle. Para somehow, sa atong kagalingon, we can start that and become a good steward of God's creation. Sa giingon pa ni Hailey Kai, let us always remember that we only have one earth, so that we will have to care and share, and let's live in harmony. By doing that, we keep our conversations going. Thank you so much, Kyle, for joining me this afternoon, and to Dan also. And thank you mga ka-IH. See you this Saturday for another exciting conversation. Happy weekend and God bless everyone.
Thank you and